It's a beautiful morning in the neighborhood. Okay, Nix, go to the bathroom. And off he goes, racing through the neighborhood until he finds the perfect spot.
Welcome to Yoldai's Pet Corner.
Let's clear something up right now. We're often taught to see the world through a human-centric lens, where we are the primary actors, the sole decision makers. We see animals as creatures of instinct, driven by basic needs for food, shelter, and survival. But what if that view is incomplete? What if, in moments of crisis, some animals are capable of something more? If I told you a rat or a horse saved a human life, your first thought would probably be, yeah, okay, it sounds like a feel-good headline from a local paper, or maybe a scene from a children's movie. A lucky coincidence, a happy accident, but nothing more. We're conditioned to be skeptical of such claims, and for good reason. But I want you to set that skepticism aside, just for a few minutes. Watch closely. Because the stories you're about to hear are different. They aren't folklore or fiction. They are 100% true, rigorously science-backed, and thoroughly documented. By the end of this, you may find yourself looking at the animals around us in a completely new light. You may never underestimate them again. Because these weren't accidents. They weren't random acts of instinct. They were conscious choices. They were interventions. They were decisions. These are the true stories of two animals who saved human lives. Our story begins in Fife, a historic county nestled on the eastern coast of Scotland. It's a place known for its rugged coastline, ancient universities, and quiet, picturesque towns. A place where life often moves at a gentle, predictable pace. The year is 2008, the month, June. In one of these quiet homes, a young couple, David and Lorraine Lunn, were settling into their new life as parents. Like any new parents, their world revolved around their infant daughter, Harper. Their nights were a fragile balance of exhaustion and attentiveness, listening for the slightest stir from the baby's room. But the Lunns weren't the only ones in the house. They also had two unconventional pets, a pair of fancy rats named Ruby and Onyx. Domesticated and known for their intelligence, these weren't the pests of public perception. They were part of the family. And on this particular night, as David and Lorraine finally drifted off to sleep, everything seemed normal. The house was still. The baby was quiet. And in their cage, Ruby and Onyx were, as always, peaceful and silent. But then, in the dead of night, that peace was shattered. Something unusual happened. Their pet rats, normally quiet and docile at night, suddenly went wild. It wasn't just a brief scuffle or a moment of restlessness. This was a sustained, frantic explosion of activity. They started by banging their metal water bottle against the bars of the cage, creating a sharp, rhythmic clatter that echoed through the silent house. Then came the squealing, not the usual soft chirps, but high-pitched, urgent cries of alarm. They began furiously throwing their bedding, scratching and clawing at the cage as if desperate to escape, which, by the way, is the opposite of the rats are sneaky stereotype. These two were making it their mission to be heard. The relentless noise finally pierced through the fog of sleep. Annoyed and confused, the noise woke the parents. David, assuming the rats were just fighting, was about to get up and separate them. But something about the sheer intensity of the sound felt wrong. A sudden cold sense of dread washed over them. Instead of checking the rats, they rushed to the next room, to their daughter Harper's nursery. And there, they found their worst nightmare realized. They found their baby daughter choking, her face turning blue from lack of oxygen. She was completely silent. She had stopped breathing. Panic set in, but adrenaline took over. Drawing on first aid training, David immediately went to work to clear her airway. As he performed the life-saving maneuver, Lorraine called emergency services, her voice trembling as she explained the situation. After a terrifying few moments, a small gasp of air, Harper began to breathe again. At the hospital, doctors later confirmed the horrifying truth. The baby had been silently suffocating. Without the rat's frantic intervention waking her parents at that exact moment, the baby would have died. So how is this possible? How could two tiny rodents comprehend such a complex human crisis? The answer lies in their biology. Rats are highly social mammals, living in complex communities with sophisticated communication. More importantly, they possess incredibly advanced auditory sensitivity and pattern recognition. Their hearing extends into the ultrasonic range, far beyond human capability. They don't just hear sounds, they analyze them for patterns, for deviations, for signs of distress. Studies show rats can detect subtle, almost imperceptible changes in breathing rhythms and the faint distress sounds associated with choking long before a human would notice anything is wrong. To Ruby and Onyx, the sudden silence from the baby's room wasn't peace, it was a terrifying anomaly. The normal rhythmic pattern of breathing had vanished. This means these rats weren't panicking randomly. Their actions were targeted, methodical. They were using the loudest tools at their disposal, the metal water bottle, their own voices, to create a sound jarring enough to wake their human family. They were signaling an emergency. They detected a threat to a member of their colony, the human baby, and took decisive action. The most telling detail? The family says the rats never behaved that way before that night, and they have never behaved that way since. It was a one-time, life-saving alarm, sounded by the most unlikely of heroes.
Hi, Dad. I love your stories. And if you at home enjoy them too, please, pretty please, hit like and subscribe. It makes me so happy.
Our next story takes us into a world where the bond between human and animal is ancient and profound. It involves a creature we have trusted for millennia, an animal that has carried us into battle, plowed our fields, and explored new frontiers alongside us. We admire their strength, their grace, their beauty, but we almost never credit them with independent, complex thinking. We see them as loyal companions, yes, but often as creatures of simple instinct and training. This story challenges that assumption in the most dramatic way possible. Story 2, The Horse Who Saved His Owner. We travel to the sprawling, sun-drenched landscapes of Queensland, Australia, in the year 2012. This is a region known for its rugged beauty and remote trails, a place where the connection to nature, and to the animals that inhabit it, is a part of daily life. It was here that a routine afternoon ride would turn into a life-or-death struggle, with an unlikely hero stepping forward. A woman named Lisa Torr was out for a ride on her trusted quarter-horse Honeybun. They were navigating a familiar rural trail, miles from the nearest town, enveloped by the quiet of the Australian bush. It was a peaceful scene, one they had shared countless times before. But on this day, without any warning, disaster struck. Lisa suddenly suffered a severe medical emergency, an event later identified as a major seizure. Her world went black. She lost consciousness and collapsed from the saddle, falling limp and unresponsive onto the dusty ground. Honeybun stopped. The sudden weightlessness of his rider, the unnatural thud on the earth. It was a disruption to the rhythm of their ride, a signal that something was terribly wrong. Now, consider the typical reaction of a horse in a startling situation. As prey animals, their primary instinct when faced with danger or uncertainty is flight. A sudden noise, a strange scent, or the unexpected fall of a rider would normally trigger a panic response, to bolt, to run far away from the perceived threat. But Honeybun didn't run. He didn't abandon his fallen companion. Instead of panicking or running, Honeybun did something truly extraordinary. Something that defied instinct and demonstrated a level of awareness and decision-making that is simply astonishing. After a moment of assessing the situation, the horse made a choice. He turned and walked directly to the nearest road, a paved thoroughfare some distance from the secluded trail. This wasn't a random wandering. It was a deliberate journey with a clear destination. Upon reaching the road, he didn't just wait by the side, he boldly stood in front of passing vehicles, creating an unmissable four-legged roadblock. He was intentionally inserting himself into the human world, demanding attention. And when drivers slowed, honked, or tried to maneuver around him, Honeybun refused to move. He held his ground, a silent, stubborn sentinel with an urgent, unspoken message. He was not just a lost horse. He was a messenger on a mission. Finally, his strange and persistent behavior broke through. Drivers stopped, their curiosity and concern piqued by this horse who was so clearly trying to tell them something. As people got out of their cars, Honeybun immediately turned and led them back down the trail, glancing back as if to say, "This way! Hurry!" They followed the horse and found Lisa, still unconscious on the ground. Thanks to Honeybun's incredible intervention, help was called. Emergency services arrived in time to provide critical medical care. Lisa survived, all because her horse refused to let her die alone in the wilderness. So what explains this? Was it just a lucky coincidence? The science says no. Here's the science-backed explanation. Horses are prey animals, which has gifted them with a heightened sense of situational awareness. They are constantly scanning their environment for threats and anomalies. But beyond that, they possess remarkable cognitive mapping abilities and long-term memory. Research shows that horses can remember complex routes and associate specific locations with past outcomes, both positive and negative. Crucially, studies on animal cognition suggest that when a strong social bond exists, animals like horses can intentionally lead humans toward a point of interest or a person in need. Honeybun knew the route to the road, understood it was a place to find humans, and executed a plan to bring them to Lisa. Honeybun didn't just wait for his owner to get up. He didn't just stand by her side. He assessed a complex problem. His human was incapacitated and they were isolated, and he engineered a multi-step solution. He problem-solved. And this brings us to our big reveal. Think about the two heroes of our stories, rats and horses. In the human imagination, they could not be further apart. They sit on opposite ends of how we typically rank animal intelligence and worth. One, the rat, is a creature we have historically maligned and deeply underestimated, often seen as mere vermin, yet as we saw, capable of profound empathy and decisive action. The other, the horse, is an animal we admire, but whose intelligence we often frame purely in terms of trainability and obedience. Yet both of these animals, from completely different corners of the animal kingdom and our own perceptions, demonstrated the exact same core capacities in a moment of crisis. They both showed awareness of a life-threatening situation, a clear intent to intervene, and the ability to take purposeful, goal-oriented action. This wasn't a simple reflex. It wasn't instinct alone. Instinct would have made the rats hide and the horse run. What we witnessed was a higher form of cognition. These animals didn't just react to a stimulus. They processed a situation, understood the stakes, and made a conscious choice to act. They chose to help. If these true animal hero stories surprised you, and maybe even changed your perspective on the inner lives of animals, help us spread that awareness. Hit the like button, subscribe for more incredible stories, and share this video with someone who still thinks animals don't understand what's happening. Let's challenge those old ideas together. And don't forget to join us for our next event. SeaLife Saturday is coming up, where we'll dive deep into the intelligence and emotional lives of the creatures of the ocean. You won't want to miss what's next. See you there. Christmas may be over, but you know what isn't? Cats and dogs still freezing, still hungry, still waiting. This winter, your local animal shelter needs help more than ever. Please donate today and help keep them warm, fed, and safe.